faire la fête à chaque année. Pour nous, cette occasion, c'est la Journée mondiale de la vasectomie. Mais qu'est-ce que la Journée mondiale de la vasectomie? Voyons ça une chose à la fois. La vasectomie est une méthode permanente de contraception pour les hommes où un médecin coupe le canal déférent puis embouche les deux bouts. Ceci empêche les spermatozoïdes de passer dans le liquide qui est éjaculé et de fertiliser l'ovule de la femme et ainsi d'éviter la grossesse. Après la petite opération, vous éjaculez toujours la même quantité de liquide et sans les spermatozoïdes. C'est comme du lait crémé ou le jus sans les pépins. Est-ce qu'au lieu de la vasectomie, je pourrais pas juste utiliser un condom? Bien sûr, mais à chaque année, la partenaire de 18 hommes sur 100 qui utilisent le condom comme principal moyen de contraception tombe enceinte. Par contre, avec la vasectomie, le risque de grossesse est moins de 1% à vie. Faites le calcul. Mais est-ce que je pourrais pas simplement faire attention et me retirer avant d'éjaculer? Vous savez comment on appelle les hommes qui utilisent cette méthode? Papa. Et même s'il n'y a personne qui aime voir un docteur lui jouer dans les parties, le tout dure moins de 15 minutes, la douleur s'en va rapidement chez 99% des hommes et il n'y a pas d'effet négatif sur la vie sexuelle. En fait, enlever la peur d'avoir une grossesse peut même rendre ça meilleur. On pourrait donc penser que tous les hommes dont la famille est complétée optent pour une vasectomie, mais il y a des pays où moins de 1% des hommes choisissent cette option. Et pourquoi les hommes sont-ils si hésitants? De mauvaises informations ou de vieilles habitudes créent des peurs comme « je vais perdre ma vie sexuelle » ou « ma testostérone va diminuer ». Même qu'en langue luo au Kenya, en Afrique, on utilise le même mot pour vasectomie et castration. On pense un peu partout dans le monde qu'on devient moins homme avec la vasectomie. Vraiment, être un homme, ça se mesure pas par le nombre d'enfants qu'on a, mais par la façon dont on s'en occupe. Et certains hommes n'en veulent tout simplement pas et c'est leur choix. Un homme courageux ne fuit pas devant les responsabilités, il les partage avec sa partenaire. C'est normal d'avoir peur, mais ça se contrôle. La vasectomie, c'est un acte d'amour. Et si cet acte d'amour avait également des retombées sur la planète que nous léguerons à nos enfants? Saviez-vous qu'une personne vasectomisée réduit 28 fois plus notre empreinte de carbone que tous les efforts d'une personne qui passe sa vie à réduire, réutiliser et recycler? La Journée mondiale de la vasectomie célèbre tous les hommes et toutes les femmes qui prennent leurs responsabilités à l'égard de leurs enfants, de leur famille et de notre avenir. Nous avons tous à réfléchir et à échanger sur le fait d'avoir ou non des enfants. C'est certainement l'une des conversations les plus importantes à avoir au cours de notre vie. Joignez-vous donc à nous le 13 novembre, alors qu'ensemble nous marquerons l'histoire et créerons un monde meilleur.
Bonjour à tous. Vous êtes bien sur la chaîne YouTube dédiée à la santé masculine et à la contraception et aussi sur le podcast 1001 vasectomies. Donc ce n'est pas le 13 novembre comme disait ma chère Michel Abrec, c'est le monteur, c'est lui qui m'a amené à faire cette technique, mais c'était vendredi dernier, mais prochainement, ce vendredi, ça c'est le 22 novembre, il y a World Vasectomy Day 24 Hours Event, c'est-à-dire que des praticiens partout dans le monde vont témoigner avec des patients sur la vasectomie, sur l'intérêt, sur comment est-ce que la vasectomie est un acte d'amour. Pour ma part, je suis programmé dans cette longue litanie d'experts vers 10h30. Donc, j'espère pouvoir être en ligne et diffuser. Donc, qu'est-ce que c'est World Vasectomy Day? World Vasectomy Day, c'est un truc très simple. C'est tout simplement c'est une association. Donc, ce n'est pas juste une énième journée, c'est une association qui a été créée il y a 11 ans déjà par des cofondateurs, en particulier Jonathan Stack et Doug Stein. Doug, c'est un excellent, peut-être un des meilleurs praticiens de vasectomie dans le monde. D'ailleurs, il a même un vidéo à son nom disponible sur YouTube, The Vasectomist, et cette vidéo a été faite par qui? Par Jonathan Stack. Donc, on va parler de Jonathan. Je vais le présenter avant de diffuser l'interview que j'ai fait avec lui pour préparer cette émission. Mais pourquoi Zambia cette année? Pourquoi c'est la Zambie à l'honneur pour le World Vasectomie Day? Parce que l'idée de World Vasectomie Day est de diffuser la technique, d'apprendre l'excellence de la vasectomie sans scalpel et de l'amener là où il n'y a pas d'offre de soins et de contraception. Pourquoi donc? Pour protéger les femmes. Parce que lorsqu'on est dans des pays en difficulté, les pays émergents avec niveau faible, on sait qu'il y a un problème de fertilité, de contraception et de prise en charge. Et donc, qui sont celles qui payent en premier? Ce sont les femmes. Donc, World Vasectomie Day a formé des médecins partout dans le monde. Ils sont allés en Indonésie, sont allés ailleurs en Asie, sont allés en Haïti, sont allés en Colombie, au Mexique. Et cette année, l'honneur, c'est en Zambie. Donc, c'est des bénévoles, c'est des praticiens bénévoles qui vont former des médecins sur place, pour faire en sorte et créer des centres. Donc, ils font appel à des dons. Ça fonctionne par dons parce qu'ils ont besoin d'argent pour créer, pour financer toutes ces centres, toutes ces formations. Donc, mais la question que je vous pose, c'est qui est Jonathan Stack? C'est parce qu'en fait, c'est ça. C'est lui qui est quelque part à l'idée derrière. C'est le premier. Jonathan Stack, c'est un réalisateur. C'est un réalisateur qui n'est pas comme les autres. Bon, même qu'il est né à New York, donc il est d'origine, donc il est américain. Il a réalisé beaucoup de documentaires. Donc, c'est ce qu'on appelle ça un storyteller. Mais c'est un storyteller qui est fantastique, qui est capable de capturer des récits humains invraisemblable, qui est allé là où personne ne va. Il est allé en prison, donc il est allé à la plus grande prison des États-Unis, prison Angola, pour voir le fonctionnement du monde carcéral. C'est une des prisons où il y a le plus d'agressivité, le plus de violence, où c'est les peines les plus longues. Il est allé au Libéria, il a vu les gamins qui devaient aller à l'école, qui tiraient avec des kalachnikovs, les fameux enfants soldats qui tuent. Il a vu l'épidémie de crack à Harlem. Donc, il a fait tant de choses, mais dans une vision de montrer la vraie vie, la réalité. C'est une réalité bouleversante qu'il nous montre dans ces films. Et d'ailleurs, ces films ont été appréciés. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il a été nommé aux Oscars et il a reçu deux fois Emmy Awards pour ses documentaires autour du monde caché que nous, dans notre confort, on ne le voit pas. Donc, et lui, il voulait transmettre une vision de résilience parce que derrière ces histoires, il y a toujours quelque chose de fantastique, il y a du positif. Comment? Donc, c'est pas jusqu'à la côté négatif, il y a quand même un espoir. Il est retourné 10 ans après dans la prison d'Angola voir comment ça fonctionne, qu'est-ce qui est nouveau. Donc, il a créé une école d'art, art de rue en Haïti. Donc, il n'est pas resté juste sur l'image, il était quelqu'un d'engagé. Et puis, au moment où il raconte qu'au moment où il était le plus bas au niveau de la dépression, c'était pas très en forme, il s'est dit quoi, tiens. Et lorsqu'il a décidé de faire lui-même sa vasectomie, il s'est dit, c'est génial, c'est fantastique. Il y a un moyen de transmettre ça. Donc, il s'est engagé dans un projet unique, c'est World Vasectomie Day. Donc, c'est un visionnaire car il a voulu transmettre son expérience personnelle pour créer un mouvement mondial. Donc, il a créé World Vasectomie Day avec Jonathan Stack. Pourquoi? Pour informer, pour responsabiliser les hommes sur la contraception. Et donc, c'est une idée simple, la vasectomie, faire en sorte qu'on crée une initiative mondiale. Et nous sommes aujourd'hui, 11 ans après, il y a plus de 50 pays qui ont participé à différents programmes. Et l'élément central de sa communication, c'est quoi? C'est que la vasectomie est un acte d'amour. Car chaque fois qu'il rencontre des gens pour ses vidéos, pour ces tournages autour de la vasectomie, le mot revenait de manière fréquemment. Pourquoi vous faites ça? Why? For love. Parce que c'est l'élément central de son message. Donc, c'est un humaniste engagé qui va pour un monde qui est beaucoup plus juste. Donc, il va soutenir, après tous ces projets éducatifs en Haïti et ailleurs, il est allé donc faire quoi? Faire créer travail sur World Vasectomie Day. Donc, j'ai eu le plaisir de échanger avec lui il y a quelques jours pour préparer cette émission, pour préparer le live qu'on a diffusé vendredi dernier. Mais comme c'était un petit peu long, j'ai gardé tout pour maintenant. Donc, je vous invite de regarder le témoignage bouleversant de Jonathan Stack, comment l'idée lui est arrivée. Au niveau de la liaison, on s'excuse, mais il était à Lusaka, donc il est en Zambie, parce que c'était après une longue journée, donc c'était le fonctionnement Wi-Fi de l'hôtel, donc il peut avoir quelques distorsions de son. Merci pour votre compréhension.
I like it.
Oh, Jonathan, very pleasure. I'm very honored to have you here. You are right now in Lusaka, right?
Yes, we're in Lusaka, Zambia.
Zambia, great. Lusaka to Paris, it's fantastic, this technology. So, behind the decision, you are the co-founder of the World Vasectomy Day. So, first question is this one.
Why? Yeah. Well, the reason why we started it, or why, is that what you want to know, why it started?
No, why you choose, your choice to co-found the idea behind.
Okay. Well, listen, the reason was very personal decision. It was, I myself was in a time in my life where things weren't going well. I'd made a lot of films and I witnessed a lot of misery, and I was always trying to take the misery and making films that showed a positive outcome. But I was seeing so much misery that I wasn't able to, it was going out in a negative way, and my life was going in a bad direction. I got caught up with bad decisions. I got caught up with drugs. I got caught up with things that were not leading me in a good direction.
Yeah.
And I was very conscious of trying to make the characters in my films' lives good. So I decided, what if I made a film about myself getting a vasectomy, and I would become a character that would transform my life, treat myself as beautifully as I treated the people in my film. So I started down this path of making a film about going to get vasectomy. The very first shot I have of myself, I'm at my apartment, I masturbate into a cup, I would take the sperm, I run to the doctor's office, and the very first image you see is like is millions of sperm swimming around. It's chaotic, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the whole story was how I would come to the other side. I would find peace. So I went from the crazy energy of sperm to sort of the tranquil peace of afterwards. So that would be the idea. What happened was, I started to make the film, and I started to get looking more ambitious. I started to work. I found a Dr. Stein. I said, you got to meet Dr. Stein. He's a fanatic. He's down in Florida. He's got billboards. So I went down to Florida. I met Dr. Stein. The day before I met him, I stopped at this woman's house who was she wrote a book called Birthing God's Fearless Warriors. She was a religious fanatic who believed that when the end of time came, Christians had to have a lot of children so that the children would rise up as warriors to fight for Jesus Christ. And so she was very against vasectomy. She thought this would destroy the war of goodness. So she said, don't get a vasectomy. And she prayed, don't get a vasectomy. Next day I went to see Doug. I met Doug. After 5 minutes filming with Doug, I looked at my camera person and co-director and I said, let's film Doug. He's a better character. He's just more comfortable in front of the camera. So we started filming Doug. I followed him around his trips. And I really quickly learned the thing that got me in the beginning. I mean, Doug was a good character, but the thing that really got me was the men. Each, like what you were saying, each of the guys choosing to get a vasectomy, they did something. I never heard this before, Vincent. It was because I'm making all these films and every man was trying to be tough and strong. When I asked a guy on the table why he chose to get a vasectomy, almost inevitably, the word love would come out. He would say the word love.
Yeah.
I love my wife, and I want my wife, she suffered, or I love my children, and I want my children's life to be better. So the word love and vasectomy came together very quickly. And I thought, if I want to build a movement, which I was really interested in because of the technology, if I want to build a movement, I want to build it around love. And the most powerful, and that first, I was in Kenya. I was in Kenya and
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night. It was May 9th, 2012. And I had a little dream and I woke up and I said, what if I could aggregate a one moment of a man making a conscious, informed decision to transform his relationship to evolution as an act of love? And if I could collectivize it, and I said, I would aggregate individual acts of love into a collective movement. So I got online and I Googled World Vasectomy Day. I don't know why I thought World Vasectomy Day. And of course, there it was.
Yeah.
I reserved the URL. I woke up in the morning. I told Doug we're going to do World Vasectomy Day. I said to the guys as they were getting vasectomies, it was on the border of Kenya and Uganda. After they got their vasectomy, I'd bring them behind the clinic and I'd have them say, I support World Vasectomy Day. They said it in English, they said it in Swahili, they said it in the different languages. So from day one, we had started the movement. And then I'm flying back to the United States a week later, and I'm thinking to myself, what is World Vasectomy Day? What am I going to do? I don't even know what that means. And I said, okay, Jonathan,
Yeah.
you have 1 year. I gave myself 1 year. I had to convince 1,000 men, 100 doctors to do 1,000 vasectomies in 24 hours. And that was the idea of World Vasectomy Day. And 16 months later, we had the first World Vasectomy Day in Australia, in Adelaide, as part of a thing called Festival of Ideas. And we had it live in the Science Center, and it was Royal Institute of Australia Science Center. And we had a live, and Doug was there, and Nick was there, Nick Demediuk. And it really took off from there. But the funny part was, I really just thought it was a 1 year thing. I wasn't going to really do a second year. And Doug called up and he said, everybody wants to know, when was the next World Vasectomy Day? And I said, I didn't even think about it. And I said to him, if you give me $50,000, if I can get $50,000, I'll invent it. So Doug generously came up with the money. And we did the second World Vasectomy Day in Orlando. And that second year, like a week or 2 weeks before, there was an event. There was a horrible event in India where I think 20, 30 women died in one of these. It was doing tubal ligation. There was a contamination.
Yeah, I
A lot
know.
of women
I heard
died.
about it.
And the ministry, and it just so happened that on that day, the Ministry of Health had received this idea to invited them to be part of World Vasectomy Day. And so they declared World Vasectomy Day a national event because they wanted to show that they were
Great.
going to get men better partners. And it just sort of took off from there. And every year we've now, this is our 12th year. We've not missed a year. We didn't miss when there was there was a volcano in Indonesia. There was an earthquake in Mexico. There was COVID in 2020. And every year we've been to a different country. We did it in Muslim country, in Indonesia. We've done it we've had lots of challenges. It's not always been easy, but it just always succeeds in that everywhere we go, there are men who are just so ready to be part of something that celebrates the best of who they are, the best of who we are. And so it's it just sort of taken on a bit of a life of its own. And what was going to be a 1 year thing and, just an experiment in storytelling has grown into a kind of a movement that keeps growing. And, we do it really out of the volunteers. But I will say one thing is that's so really important. In year one, I was looking for 1,000 men. How was I going to find 1,000 men in 10 countries? And I realized it was the doctors. Forget about the men. I'll find the doctors. If I get the doctors find the men. And so we set off to find the doctors. And Doug figured this out. It really was Doug's advice. And pretty soon now we're having 800 or 900. There's probably over 1,000 doctors who participate every year. And the doctors are really the stars of the show. They're the ones who just kind of make it happen. And some of the doctors are incredible, like Dr. Michelle Lebrec, who's here from Canada. Doug, of course, has been great. And there have been more and more. Now we're training 2 doctors. It's a really positive experience. And now it's gotten more and more sophisticated. So we go to countries and we work with the Ministry of Health. We try to set up programs. We try to bring in resources, and it's been probably of all the projects I've done, it's certainly the most ambitious and the most satisfying.
Great.
But the least, I can say this, the least financially lucrative for me, and the least ego. No ego, like not with filmmaking. I swear, everybody's a star in the film world. but everyone's always like award winning, but in documentary film, you get that. But in World Vasectomy Day, reproductive health, you just do the work, and it feels good. But it's not like there's no film festival type thing, which is why we worked really hard to create this sense of this global movement, this feeling, and we do give awards now, which I took from the film world. I said if filmmakers should get awards, doctors who do vasectomies should definitely get awards. So we do that too now.
Fantastic. What are your feelings right now? 13 years have you started fantastic, this amazing adventure. How do you feel right now?
I'll tell you something. The most satisfying part, I think that vasectomy doctors are some of the most conscientious, caring people that I've met. I mean, they are so conscientious. Every one of these doctors, they're always calling their patients to see how they are. I don't even think my doctor asks how I am when I'm there for most things. So the vasectomy doctors, because I think the nature of the procedure, it brings out a very human quality. It's like you're not dealing with an illness. You're actually celebrating a positive decision. So I really feel great about. It's built a friendship. It's really built a network. It's very satisfying. I mean, it is exhausting. I'm not going to lie. It's hard work. And it's really stressful at times. But we pull it off every year. We don't make a lot of money. Most of us are volunteers. We just do it because it's really the right thing to do. And it's fun to do it. It's fun to see the world. I set out around 10 years ago. I said, I'll go for 10 years. I'll go to a different country every year. And I get to know the countries. I get to know the people. We built a beautiful network of young people who are creative. Now, remember, a big part of World Vasectomy Day is the storytelling.
Did this change your idea about the French relationship with the vasectomy?
Well, I mean, you guys have been a big part of that. And look, the reality is I think, when I'm very glad my children want to have children. I'm going to be honest about it. I love children. I think family is a beautiful thing. When I hear about young people who don't want to have any children, I feel like, oh, that's sad. I think it's a beautiful thing to live out. But it reflects a sense of unhappiness on the planet. And that's a reality. And I don't think it's terrible to wait to get a vasectomy. I do think ultimately it should be your choice. And if you're ready to get a vasectomy and your doctor feels comfortable doing it, you shouldn't have to wait 4 months or whatever it was at that point. I don't think that it's like that shouldn't have to wait 4 months. But I don't think waiting 4 months is a terrible thing, because I think most of us take a lot longer than that to make a decision. And in fact,
exactly. It's the idea. It's never an emergency to have a vasectomy. You can wait. You can organize it. It's never. I organize for my patients always. Decide very, very early to organize very soon the vasectomy. Is not the time is not a problem now.
I don't think so. I really actually don't. And I often say this because even in New York, it's a 30-day waiting period. And I've said, you know what? The funny part, of course, is I tell people, it's like, there's no doctor I go to in New York that I don't have to wait 30 days anyhow. It's not like I'm always waiting 30 days for a doctor. I'm usually waiting 60 days, and often I'm waiting 3 months or 4 months because the doctors are so busy that I got to wait that long anyhow. So it's not like I don't know about waiting for medical care. It's not an emergency situation. It's a part of a process of thinking, and I think you should really take it seriously. It's a huge decision, and I have a feeling that if people took it more, if you're more conscientious about the decision, you're also more conscientious about protecting your partner. You're more conscientious about raising your children.
Exactly.
So anything. It's
right.
I always tell people it's really about ultimately being conscious and being conscientious about a very powerful and beautiful aspect of life, which is making new life. And when you hit that moment in your reproductive, your life where you don't want more children, and you're a couple and you're trying to make a decision together, I just think a vasectomy is a beautiful option, and it's a beautiful gift to your wife or your partner who has gone through so much, suffering or hardship, raising children or giving birth, all the things that women go through. Here's your chance as a man to really show how much you love and care for her. It's so simple. It's so easy.
Yeah.
There's a million. So for me, my whole thinking was, you make this decision, it brings out the best of who you are. So
Yeah.
now you're
Right.
part of a group. Now, if we do this, if we bring the best of who we are together in a group setting, and we say, this isn't just about not having children, this is about taking care of the life that we've created and taking care of the world in which that life is going to evolve. So everything that's about slowing it down, thinking about it, being conscientious about it is good. That the state, that a nation, that a government should tell you as a man that you have to wait 4 months because you should wait and rethink it. I don't know that that's necessary, but I think as a doctor, and I always tell the men, it's like, your doctor, it's just as you have a right to make a decision about when you want to get a vasectomy, your doctor also has a right to decide if he feels it's in
Yeah.
your best interest to do that. And
Exactly.
you have to,
Exactly.
and that may not be the right doctor for you. That's fair enough. Then you find another doctor if that's not what you like. That's your right. You have that right. But I don't think the decision to ask your patient to take thought, to think it through, is a bad thing in itself. Now, as we know, a lot of people, it's impulsive, and then they don't get a
Yeah.
vasectomy. They have another child pregnant, and so this is another issue. But I feel like what we try to do is not always say maximize the number of vasectomies. It's a personal decision. Every man must make that either on himself or with his partner, however he comes to that decision. But the part that we're all responsible for is the life that we do create. So be
Yeah.
conscientious, think it through, and so World Vasectomy Day, I always tell people, it's like it's an event that celebrates the best of what it is to be a conscientious, caring, compassionate man. So how could you go wrong with that? And the reality is, Vincent, and this is why we've been so successful, is we go into countries where there isn't a lot of experience of vasectomy.
Yeah.
And everybody assumes it's never going to work in my country. Men will not accept it.
Yeah.
But that's because what you're selling them, you're just giving them a procedure. But when you're actually telling a story, which
Yeah.
is about how you become, it gives you more power. It gives you more strength to be able to do what makes you powerful, which is to raise your children. Anybody can make a baby. There's no big effort. Takes a moment. But actually to raise a child to the level that you feel like represents the best of who you are
Yeah.
as a human being is very difficult, but it's extremely satisfying. And I don't think there are very many men, who want to see their children fail. It creates a negative feedback where you failed as a father. So all of this about celebrating, supporting, the World Vasectomy Day has grown immensely because we tapped into something at the right time in history. We basically said, all of this negative, all of what's so bad about men,
Yeah.
you know what? Those are real things, and we need prisons, we need police, but we need a movement that actually brings out the best of who we are. That's what a vasectomy is. It actually represents the best of what a man can be. Not every man who gets a vasectomy is a beautiful human being, but it's a beautiful act. And my whole thinking in all the films I made, Vincent, was about, I called it the people paradox. I said, in the human species, and actually within any human being, exists this huge range of behavior. The same person can be cruel, can also be kind. And which one of them comes out
Have to choose.
is the social context. And so building a movement around positive decision making is powerful, and it's a beautiful thing. And so we've taken that, and we've taken it, and basically it just grows. And it's been a difficult 12 years, and it could grow faster. It's like, I'm a filmmaker. I often saying, I was like, who's going to replace me? I want somebody to replace me because I grew it here.
Yeah.
But I know there are people who can take it further, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that as well, because I think that's what a movement needs to be. It has to grow organically. Yeah. There's very little. Look, most of us make babies through sex. I mean, we all make babies through sex, but not all, but mostly. And it's usually an act of passion. It's pleasure and passion. There's not a lot of thinking and thought that goes into it's like boom. When you choose a vasectomy, and I tell people, it's like it's a ritual. And most rituals, remember, when we had rituals originally, rituals were to create equilibrium in society. It was to basically, because if you only, and most rituals had to do with fertility. And they had to replace family because for millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, their average lifespan was short. But so vasectomy it's like a ritual, modern ritual. And what it does is it says, it's like you start that day and you're like a procreator. And when you finish that day, you're a protector. Now you've hit a new status. Now what you do is not you're making new life, you're actually protecting the life that you've already created, or you're protecting the life that, that surrounds you. And so if you have this role, this status, that's powerful. That is a powerful place to be. You're not irrelevant because you're not making babies. You're more powerful because you have a new role to play. And that's why mentorship is so important, and teaching. And what happens is men have a good experience. They talk to their brothers and friends. It becomes normalized, and it's a beautiful thing. But I want to say one other thing, Vincent. One of the things we emphasize very strongly, and this is why Michelle is here now. We go all over the world. We do a lot of training now. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because early on, I realized you can't promote something if the quality of the thing you're promoting isn't high. So we don't accept mediocre vasectomy doctors. We don't want to, we want to make sure everybody gets better and better and better. That's why we do the webinars. That's why we do the training. That's why we make sure we like research, because it would not be ethical at World Vasectomy Day if we just promoted vasectomy as like, no, it's a volunteer procedure. If I'm going to ask you to volunteer to do it, we've got to make sure that what you get is the quality that it should be. It should be a incredibly successful, very little low impact, very little after effects. It's simple, but simple things sometimes can go wrong if you don't do them right. I always tell people it's like a vasectomy is a little bit like making pie crust. Not a lot of ingredients, but if you don't put them right together, you could have a disaster. So, and the disaster is you could ruin someone's life. So we really don't want that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I'm really. It's touching. It's very, very human. Let's say so. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Voici, c'était le documentaire, l'enregistrement avec Jonathan Stack en direct de l'Osaka. Donc, il nous a raconté quelque part pourquoi il a fait la vasectomie, donc tout ce qui est un bruit de son, je suis désolé, comment il a fait comment il a créé. Donc, n'oubliez pas, tous les mardis matins, il y a un live. Si vous avez des questions, l'idée est justement créer de l'interaction. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à me les envoyer à l'adresse audio@huperton.com. Je vous indique aussi que j'ai un compte Instagram qui est le suivant. Tac, si j'arrive à le montrer, c'est Vasectomie. C'est autour de la... Tac. Hop, voici le compte Instagram, Huperton Vasectomie. Également pour me contacter, poser des questions. Il y a World Vasectomy Day et on va terminer en beauté avec What If. C'est un documentaire, c'est un bande-annonce de 2 minutes qui a été monté pour la World Vasectomy Day il y a 3 ans, 2021, durant la pandémie. La voici. Voilà, donc c'était le live World Vasectomie Day. Merci pour avoir écouté. Vendredi, il y aura un live également 24 Hours 7 et mardi prochain à 8h sur même chaîne YouTube, Facebook. Posez vos questions. Je vous dis à très bientôt.